Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another review. This time we have Hunter. It's not my most favorite class in the game, but I'll try to give you my opinion. And let's start with the card that we have seen for quite some time in the online world. It's a 4-mana free for Teldurin the Lost. Battle Cry, if your deck has no duplicates, then gain immune this turn and attack all enemies. There's obviously a lot of cards that can buff this card in your hand. There's the 2-mana spell that gives your minions in your deck, battlefield and hand +1 attack. There's obviously the Hope of Qualtalas, the 6-mana weapon that has the same effect, but it buffs by +1/+1 each time you swing. And there are for sure some other cards and the hand buff minions that can make this card a little bit bigger. Even as it is without the buffs, it's still basically what's it called? The Prison Breaker, without the restriction of casting 5 spells, which is not that huge, but as it is right now, the Prison Breaker has been nerfed, so it's still better than Prison Breaker, and it almost always kills all the 1-mana, 2-mana, and maybe 3-mana minions. So on curve, it's basically a board clear. In Wild, you obviously play this in a Reno Hunter. In Standard, obviously played as well. Yeah, it's just a solid card. It's probably one of the better Highlander cards in the set. So it has to be like 4 stars in Wild, 4 stars in Standard. Arena again, I have no idea how to evaluate. No duplicate cards, so I'd give this one a solid 3 stars. Spurfang, it's another card that's a little bit weird. In Wild, it has some combinations how you can buff this card. You can also pull it out from the 7-mana spell that summons piece from your deck that costs 5 or less. Sure how it's called, can't remember. So that's a thing, but probably don't want to pull this card, to be honest. It kinda sucks. You summon a 2-mana minion. So yeah, in Wild, this one feels a little bit weird. You can obviously get it for cheaper if you have Harpoon Gun. Then you can somehow maybe buff it. You can play Bananas. You can draw it with another card we will look at in a second. And that card also buffs this minion's attack by 1, so that summons instantly a 3-cost beast, and when it dies, it summons another 3-cost beast. So that is alright. But still, in Wild, I feel like it's too slow. So, but it can potentially see some play in a certain deck, maybe in Reno. Who knows? So I'd give this one 2 stars in Wild, but in Standard, there are some implications, I think. So in Standard, it's like 3 stars. And in Arena, it's again value. It summons something. So in Arena, it's 3 stars as well. Star Shooter, 4-mana, 2/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, get an Arcane Shot. Arcane Shot is just a 1-mana, deal 2 damage. It is an Arcane spell school. I feel like this card is too slow for 4 mana. if it were a 3 mana weapon, then probably you play it. But as it is right now, for 4 mana, you're spending 4 mana to give 2 damage. Because on the same turn, you probably do. If you play this on curve, on the same turn you can play the arcane shot. I mean, obviously, you can. Also, it has anti-synergy actually, because if you play the Brightwing or whatever it's called, the 4 mana legendary, or even if you play the 2 mana minions that buff your hand, it's not a permanent aura effect. So you would have to keep these cards in your hand. Then you would have to swing 3 times with this weapon to get the arcane shots and then buff them. Yeah, this card seems like it's super ultra omega slow. So you probably don't want to play this card like ever, unless they buff it to 3 mana. So I would just give it like 0 mana, 0 stars in both formats. I mean, it's 1 star obviously. In Arena, again, it's too slow. I would give it 2 stars actually, because it can give you some value. So it's probably not that bad in Arena. Settle up. 3 mana, give your minions dead rattle, summon a random beast that costs 3 or less. This is probably better, what's it called? Soul of the Forest. For Hunter. It's similar to the Murloc / Imp spell that costs 2 mana for Warlock. It gives your Imp summon a 2/2 Imp lock. So this is something in between these 2 cards. I would say it's playable in like a Swarm deck, if there's one. In Wild, you have a lot of 1 mana minions, 1 mana beasts that can swarm the board early in the game, and then you can potentially like play Wolpertingers. You can play the other 1 mana spell that summons 2 beasts with stealth. You can play the other stuff. You can play Penguin as well if you want. And then you can settle up, and it's a sticky board. I have no idea if there are any board buff spells for Hunter, but even that, I feel like this card is solid. So I would just give it 3 stars in both modes. And in Arena, it's still solid because it's sticky, and even if you have 2 minions, it's still like, of course you can get it like a penguin. But I just like this card. It's solid. So even in Arena, I would give it 3 stars. It's nothing that would like leave me speechless, but it's nice. 4 mana Camouflage Mount. Give a minion +3/+3 and a random bonus effect. When it dies, summon a chameleon. And these are the bonus effects. They are basically the same ones that you can get on any other cards that have the bonus effect keyword. Not sure if it's a keyword, but it's a bolded one. They could actually make it a keyword. But whatever. It's alright. It's 4 mana, 6/6 worth of stats. Plus you get 2 effects. I believe if this effect is random, yeah, it says random, but it can change to another effect. I believe when you draw the card, it just gains the effect, and then it doesn't swap for the next one. Or maybe when you play it, then it gives the random effect and +3/+3, and then you summon the chameleon that has the same bonus effect as the buff. So if you, for example, play it on a minion and it gives the minion +3/+3 and Wind Fury, then you summon a chameleon with Wind Fury. So I think that's how it works. This is a solid card. I would say you would probably want to play it in a Hunter in Standard. Probably not in Wild though. In Wild it feels too slow. So in Wild I would probably give it 1 star. In Standard it's like 3 stars, maybe 2 or 3. I would probably be a little bit generous towards this card and give it 3 stars. And in Arena, again, it's solid. It's better than Blessing of Kings in Paladin, for example, that gives just 4 stats. And this is much better, obviously. So in Arena, it's like 3 stars, maybe 4. Bovine Skeleton, 3 mana, 3/3 Undead Beast. If this has 4 or more attack, summon a Bovine Skeleton, which is again this card. I think you can kinda reliably summon multiple of these cards when you play it. You can play the Quillbore, the 1 mana Quillbore, with the what's it called? The keyword from the Festival of Legends, the final keyword, finally, whatever. Yeah, and then you can, for example, coin this on 2, and then you have a 4/4 that resummons another 3/3 when it dies. So that's a thing. You can buff it, of course, with bananas. That's another one. You can draw it with the next card that we'll look at. So that's another one. This just feel like a better egg, to be honest. Plus it has 2 tribes. Yeah, I like this card in both formats. I think it could be playable. With Harpoon Gun, it costs 1 mana. Yeah, you can buff it, you can hand buff it, you can deck buff it. I like this card a lot. I think we have seen a similar card in the past. It was 5 mana, neutral, 1 rare, with 3/6 stats, or 3/5 stats. And it has almost the same text. But it had no tribe, so it was unplayable. But I would give this one like 3 stars in Wild, 4 stars in Standard, and in Arena it's still decent, but probably not that great, so 3 stars in Arena. 10 Gallon Hat. This is a nice reference card for Gallon, and maybe a ridiculous hat. Gallon is the set lead on this expansion. It's a 2 mana, draw a minion, give it +1/+1, and that will get a 10 Gallon hat. This is obviously overcosted a little bit, because you have the Explorer's Hat in Wild that sees almost no play, and it costs 1 mana, but it doesn't draw a minion. But still, it's probably better to be able to target a minion on the board than to get to play the Explorer's Hat basically on a minion from your deck that is randomly selected. So I feel like this one is a little bit overcosted. So it probably is going to see no play in Wild. So in Wild it's 1 stars. But in Standard you can play it in Highlander for sure. With this card. You can buff this card. That's nice. You can buff this card. That's also nice. And you can buff this card. So I feel like in Standard you play it in most Hunter decks, because Hunter also has almost no card draw. So yeah, this card is for sure playable in Standard. So in Wild it's 1 star, in Standard it's 3 stars. I mean, it's not something flashy, but you probably play it in the Beast decks. In Arcane Hunter you can actually maybe also tutor some important cards, because you don't play many minions in Arcane Hunter. So I can see it. So it's 3 stars in Standard, and in Arena it's alright, but again I feel like it's a little bit too overcosted, so I would give it 2 stars in Arena. Silver Serpent, 3 mana, 2/3 beast, rush, poisonous, quick draw, gain immune this turn. A lot of people think this card is a 1-star, but I feel like for me, this card is really great, and I would for sure play it in my Highlander decks, and even in like a beast decks, it's still kind of insane, and I feel like people are kind of undervaluating this card a little bit, because even if you hand buff it, even if you like trade into a minion, then it's alright. It's deadly shot that you can select, and you can select your target. If you quick draw it, quick draw means if you discard it or somehow draw it, or if you add it to your hand this turn. So if it sticks on the board, if it has immune, it sticks on the board, then you can trade something else. I feel like this card is not that bad as people think. Of course, it could be 2 mana, but then it will be just a better removal than any other class has access to. So this just feels like a solid card. It's probably not 3 stars in Wild. I would give it still 2 stars in Wild, but in Standard I would give it 3 stars, and in Arena it's probably 4 stars. Honestly, it feels super good in Arena, because it gives you a ton of value, and your opponent is going to have hard times dealing with this card. Next one, Messenger Buzzard. This is the card that we saw in the reveal of the expansion. 2 mana, 1/2 beast. The other will draw a beast. You give minions in your hand +1/+1. I think you obviously play this card in all the beast decks. You can play it in the Reno versions as well, because this buffs your what's it called? Teldurim. So this card is just like a Bannerman for Paladin, but it tutors a specific minion type, which is much better, and it has a hand buff effect, same as Bannerman. It's a dead rattle, so you can trigger it multiple times. If you, for example, in Wild, if you play that, the 2 mana spell, you can play the newly buffed 2 mana minion, the 2/3 that triggers a dead rattle effect. You can play the 4 mana minion that triggers the effect twice. Obviously, this card feels great. So I would give it like 3 stars in Wild. You have Wolpertingers in Wild as well. You have some other stuff. So this card feels great. I would give it 3 stars in Wild, 4 stars in Standard, and in Arena again probably 3 or 4 stars. It's probably not that. Is it not that great? I mean, even if you don't draw the beast, it still gives your minions in your hand +1/+1, which is the card that Paladin has, the 2 mana 1, and it's a 1/1. So this is just better. So I would give it 4 stars in Arena as well, same as in Standard. Sneaky Snakes, 1 mana, summon 2 1/1 snakes with stealth. These are the snakes. They are beasts, of course. This can fuel your, what's it called? The keyword from Natria. I can't remember right now. Infuse. Yeah, infuse. It can fuel your infuse cards, like Sylvanas, for example, or the 2 mana that summons bats. It's solid. Your opponent can interact with this card. Yeah, it feels alright. You probably play it in all the small beast decks. In Wild, it can draw you with Buzzard. It can draw you 2 cards as well. It's like another Wolpertinger, or the other card that summons Alicats. So it's in Wild, I would probably give it like 2 stars, in Standard 3 stars, and in Arena it's alright again. So I would give it like 3 stars in Arena. Yeah, that's all the Hunter cards. What do you think about Hunter? Some cards are looking interesting and some cards are just straight up garbage. But it's probably not that bad for this class. But I would probably like to see more Big Beast support. But it's alright. Okay, tell me what you think and see you in the next one.